Hey everyone, it's Diego Viteri. Welcome to a new video with Viteri Boxing. Today I want to teach you the most important punch in boxing, the jab. Everything you need to know about this punch. Why is it the best punch or the most used punch? Is because it's the closest one to your opponent's target. Since my jab is always my front arm, my lead arm, is the one that's close to my opponent's face, so that's why I will use it more often. So since you use it more often, it's the most important one. So let's begin everything you need to know about the jab.
Chapter 1. The Jab Purposes.
First, you need to understand why are you using the jab? What are the main purposes of the jab? The first one is that you can break the rhythm of your opponent. Which means if your opponent is moving, this is the rhythm, he's moving around, you throw a jab to the body or a jab to the head, and this will break his rhythm. That will make him stop, and that will allow you to connect another punch. So that's the first purpose of the jab. The second one is you can blind your opponent. You can throw the jab of course, to his eyes, and then move to the side to connect another punch. So the jab will allow you to blind your opponent and get into a position. The third one is the most used one is to open spaces, to open a space. If I want to throw a big hook or a big right hand, I will need to throw my jab. My jab will allow me to open spaces, to make my opponent try to catch punches, and that will open spaces for another punch. I can throw the jab, a hook, and a cross. Yeah. Another purpose, main purpose of the jab is that you can control all distances. You can create distance if you want. You can create distance. You can throw a jab and create some distance. You can maintain your distance. You're moving. You're just jabbing to keep your distance. Jabbing to keep your distance. And you can also close the gap. I can throw a jab and close the gap in order to be close to my opponent. And finally, you can of course score punches in the scorecards. You can be just doing some points, damaging your opponent, jab to the body, taking some air out of your opponent. But remember, the most important thing about throwing the jab is that you should always have a purpose behind it. Don't just go into the sparring and go jab, 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 without any purpose. You need to always have a purpose behind in order to throw the jab, because remember, every time you throw the jab, you're open to a counter, you're opening your body, you're opening your face. So make sure you always have a purpose behind every jab you throw.
Chapter 2. Setup versus finisher jabs.
The first thing you need to understand is we have two types of jabs, or two types of ways of throwing our jab. The one is a setup jab, and the second one is a finisher jab. If you are throwing a finisher jab, of course I'm going to be in my stance and I'm going to try to step, and I'm going to turn my feet and my hip to have more power into the punch. That will be to create more power. So turn my hip and with my shoulder up. If I'm throwing a setup punch, I will just do a step, but without turning my foot, without doing this turn. Because if I want to throw, imagine a 1-2, if I want to throw with my right hand, I don't want to do it, I don't want to turn my hip, because that will take my rear hand farther away, and it will take longer to catch my opponent. So the setup punches are commonly most used. It's 80% commonly used as setup punch, as setup jabs, and a 20% or 15% just the finisher jabs. You will throw with more power.
Chapter 3. Squared stance versus lateral stance jabs.
You can throw your jab from a side stance, from a lateral stance, or from a square stance, which means both of your feet are almost aligned. If you have a lateral stance, it would be better if you are defensive, if you are a defensive fighter, or if you just want to keep a traditional stance, because it's easier to go in and out. If I'm in a lateral stance, this will mean my jab is going to have a lot more reach. If I'm in a lateral stance, I have more reach. If I'm in a square stance, I lose some reach. If I'm in a lateral stance, I have more reach to catch my opponent. But the main difference is that this one, the lateral one, is to go in and out, to be pointing to your opponent and getting out of the way. If you want to create more power, the square stance will allow you to have more rotation into your punch, to have more rotation into your punches. But I have a little tip for you. What I would like to do is this is called the square jab. From your regular stance, from lateral stance, from this stance, what you're going to do is you're going to put your shoulder aligned. You're going to align your shoulders. This way you're basically charging, you're putting some power into your jab. So here, I'll square my shoulders, I'll align my shoulders, and from here I'll throw the jab. So I have more power. Of course, remember to always hide your intentions with doing some head movement before.
Chapter 4, Head Movement to Create New Lines of Attack.
The third thing you need to know is that your head movement will allow you to find another lines of attack. If I'm here completely straight from you and I'll throw my jab, this is one line of attack, but I can find another one by just moving my head out of the center line and from here throwing my jab. From here, I will not go back to the same position. From here, from my head position that I just moved to the left, I'll throw my jab. The same thing if I move to the right, I'll move to the right and I'll throw my jab. To the body, of course, to the head. So try to use your head to vary the options of jabs you have. Also, if you're always throwing your jab from here, it's super predictable. Try to go with your jab from here, down from here, so you can throw a back jab. You throw a back jab, you move here, you throw from here. Try to vary all the options you have, all the directions you have to find different lines of attack. If your opponent is here and you are catching his forearm, move to the side and maybe you find another line of attack and you can catch him. And also try to use a thumb up. Sometimes thumb up is going to help you to go in between his gloves. If you throw like this, sometimes it catches in the forearms, but you can also do it with your thumb up so it can go in between his gloves.
Chapter 5, The Importance of Foot Placement.
The next thing you need to understand is foot placement. What is foot placement? Foot placement means where are you going to step whenever you throw a jab. If I'm stepping completely in front of me, like in a front step, just a front step, you can see that I'm actually punching his forearm. If I punch here, obviously on top of his, aligned with his leg, it's going to be his forearm. So I'm going to be punching only his forearm. So make sure that whenever you're throwing your jab, you are aligning your shoulder in between his legs or in between his shoulders. So whenever I throw, I'll put my leg in between his legs, so that will mean that I'm aligning my shoulder with his chin. But whenever you do this, remember that if I'm aligning myself with him, he's also aligned with me to throw a jab. Look, if I'm here with my leg in between his legs, aligned with my jab, he also has his leg in between my legs. So this means he can also catch me with a jab. So you're going to do the foot placement here, but you have to take your head out of the position. So I'll throw my jab, and I'll take my head out of position, so the jab can go just on top of my shoulder. I go like this. And make sure that your rear hand is covering your face, like this. So whenever you're practicing, make sure you're covering your face. And if you are working in an open stance, this will change completely. If you're working in an open stance, and I'm in an orthodox, I can no longer throw my jab, moving my jab to the side. That will not make any sense. Look, there's no one here, so it doesn't make sense. I have to throw my jab going in between his legs. I'll throw my jab, but make sure that you have his cross over here, or a hook over here, and you have to move out of the way. It's really risky. It's really risky. That's why normally when you see a southpaw versus orthodox, you see both fighters touching their lead arms, teaching lead arms to throw maybe the cross. But you have to know that you can actually throw your jab moving in, or maybe throwing jabs moving to the side. But if you want to throw, like the fundamental principle is that you have to align your shoulder in between his legs. So make sure to step in, throw your jab, but make sure you're always bent so all of his punches go on top of you and you can move out of the way. Foot placement is so important whenever you are throwing your jab. Thanks everyone for watching my video. Now you know everything about the jab. Remember to always throw your jab with a purpose to Always play with a partner. Play with a partner. Do some human chess. You don't have to take your opponent's head off. You have to protect your brain. You have to protect your partner. And it's all about having fun, to perfect the technique, and to have personal growth. That's the main thing, to have a way of life, philosophy of life with this martial arts, human chess. So leave me a comment below of what you want to learn next week, and I'll sure make that video for you. See you next week.